seemed absolutely ancient to me. Nor did I at the time appreciate the utter hardship that this thrust upon our mother, a young widow, suddenly responsible for the lives of 3 young children. Now, this was back in the days when few women worked outside of the home, and those who did had a very limited number of low-paying options from which to choose. She could be a maid, a waitress, a seamstress, or perhaps if a girl were lucky enough to have had some extra education, she might be a secretary or a school teacher. That was about it. And whether she had 0 children or 50, that small wage had to stretch to cover it all. Thus it was that our mom suddenly found herself thrown into the role of a minimum wage bank teller while juggling the fearsome responsibilities of heading a household that included preschool and elementary age children. Life was destined to be mostly a hard slog for her. But our mom loved Christmas with as much passion as I have ever seen in any human being. And this is probably because her daddy had always played up the holiday really, really big. Neither wind nor rain nor the Great Depression would keep Santa away from his home. Even during the leanest years, the holiday was welcomed with colored lights and stories and a glorious tree. And a life-size Santa figure would mysteriously materialize in the chimney atop the house. But probably the most amazing thing of all, and this was truly amazing, at some time during the week leading up to Christmas, and always when she and her siblings least expected it, there'd be a knock on the front door. And there would be Santa Claus, the real Santa Claus, mind you. He would be there, come to visit the Buchanan children and tell them stories of good little girls and boys that he had met in his travels over the world. Unsurprisingly, this served to put all of the kiddos on their best behavior, a probable blessed Christmas gift from my little grandmother. With this early childhood psychological Santa imprint, it should come as no surprise that it was very important to Mom that we kids always have as bounteous and merry a Christmas as could be mustered. I really feel in my bones that there was a corner of her psyche where she really believed Santa Claus really lived. I mean, yes. At any rate, we were always overjoyed with the gifts that Santa brought. But at the same time, we were blissfully ignorant of the struggles that Mom sometimes encountered in getting Santa to happen at all. It wasn't until after I was grown with babes of my own that Mom confessed to me that she had suffered recurring nightmares that Santa would not visit us on Christmas. She would dream that we would wake up all excited on Christmas morning, rush into the Christmas tree, and discover nothing. Zip. Not even a pair of socks. Not even a lump of coal. But as I said, we kids were blissfully ignorant of Mom's Christmas horrors because from our vantage point, Christmas was bountiful. We did not know that she made it all happen through the magic of S&H green stamps. Now, for those of you who are not of an age to remember green stamps, these were stamps that participating merchants gave away with every purchase you made. The more merch, the more stamps. It was really the 20th century's version of today's customer loyalty programs, except instead of keeping your points in your phone, you had to lick every darn one of those stamps and stick them in this little book. Blah. You could later redeem these books for merchandise in the green stamp from the green stamp catalog. Of course, this meant that you needed to place your order around Thanksgiving. And if you expected to receive it before Christmas, I think the Postal Service was a little slower in those days. And Green Stamp's toy selection was woefully sparse. Enter Hilly's Rexall drugstore to the rescue. You see, Hilly's would accept filled booklets of green stamps in lieu of cash and apply it to the customer's charge account as credit. And Hilly's had lots of toys, lots of toys. Mom made Christmas happen many years that way. Then came a year that had been especially hard for Mom financially. The old car's tires had to be replaced. It was a '53 Chevy. The gas tank had rusted out so that only 5 gallons of gas could be put in it at a time. Dental bills had been especially heavy, and First National Bank had turned down Mom's request for a raise on the grounds that they only gave raises to heads of households. Apparently, being a single mom with 3 kids is not considered to be a head of a household in banking parlance. So it was in this particularly hungry year that Mom showed up at Hilly's Pharmacy, her carefully filled green stamp books in a sack, to purchase the gifts that she had scouted out the week before. Mr. Hilly himself was behind the counter, and she handed him her precious bag of green stamps. He took the bag, looked in, and slowly shook his head. "I'm sorry, Liz, but we had to stop accepting green stamps as payment last June. It will have to be cash only from now on." Mother stood there, too stunned to speak or move. Her worst nightmare was coming true. Here it was, only a week until Christmas, and she knew that there was no way in heaven or hell that she could figure out a way for Santa to come. This year, as her nightmare had foretold, Santa would pass us by. She took back her bag of stamps and silently turned to leave. Mr. Hilly must have correctly read the stricken look on her face, because he called to her, "Wait, Liz, I just remembered. I've been saving green stamps for quite a while now to get a rather large gift for my wife. It seems to me that you might have enough stamps in that bag to finish what I need. Let's see how many you have in there." And as it happened, miraculously, there were just enough green stamp booklets in that sack to finish what Mr. Hilly needed for his big gift. And so he paid Mother on the spot with cash from his own pocket. It truly was a miracle. Santa would come after all. And then, suddenly and gloriously, clad in a furry red suit, Mom purchased the gift she had planned for, slung the packages into the back of her rusty old sleigh, and merrily and triumphantly rode into the night. So, Marion? Mm-hmm.
It's hard to follow what is.
Well,
I'm going.
we're going to,
Everybody's scared of Paul Dan. Y'all remember these? And they had that big old thing you in and then turn them out. And there were gold bombs too. Okay. Thank you. I'm from a little bitty place, and so across the street were Mark, Mike, and Kay. And then in our house there was Wade, Jane, and Adam. We were all the same age. And so we were just thick as thieves all our lives, and we were busy either We just did what kids did, mostly beating each other up, it seems. So Mark grew up to be me. He really is my brother, and he lives in Decatur. If you saw us, you wouldn't think we were kinfolk, but emotionally we're the same person. It's really fun. So he's a lawyer in a Republican town, whining, and crying, oh, Anyway, so the magical Christmas that made me, she has to speak, was the year that Santa Claus came, and my parents said, y'all go out in the garage, and there was a mini bike out there. Do y'all remember mini bikes that had lawnmower motors on them? Oh my God, got it at White's Auto. And we were like, oh wow. Well, pretty soon right across the street we heard, well, Mark and Mike and Kay got one too. So since Mark and I are the elder brothers, we rode them all the time, wouldn't let the punks drive. But anyway, we had that mini bike, and so to this day, every year he calls me, and he calls on Christmas Day, did you get a mini bike? And I go, no. I said, there's nothing as good as a mini bike. He said, are you with Jane? And I go, yeah. And he goes, are y'all going to fight? And I go, yeah. So that's our Christmas. And the other one is on me about I guess it was Spiegel, or there was some Christmas catalog, and it would come early, and we'd look and look and look. And one year I sighted the Superman outfit with the kid that looked like he was flying. Do y'all remember that? I do. Anyway, he looked like he was cutting through the breeze. And I told my parents, that's what I want for Christmas. And my mother's looking at me, and she's like, well, honey, you know, right? You can't fly if you get that thing. If Santa brings that deal. I was 19 years old. Not really. But anyway, she goes, you can't fly. Well, so I was shaking my head, and I was thinking, I can fly. So we had a little picture window in our house, and I got that Superman outfit, and I zipped it on, crawled up on the roof, and they heard me come across the roof, and they just saw me, boom, right on the ground. Well, that wasn't enough for me. I crawled up in the tree. They're all sitting there watching. They're thinking, oh, my God, he was already head injured before we did this. So anyway, I tried to fly, but I never quit trying. And my last thing is, my family was a lot of fun, and we were very different. If they had known anything about Unitarianism, I'm sure we would have been Unitarians, but we were kind of like lapsed Methodist, Buddhist, at home. And so we went to church all the time. But during the 60s, I think, probably 67 or 68, Vietnam got really bad, and our little town was very small, but we lost a few kids, and it was sad. So my parents put a peace sign on the house instead of a Christmas decoration. That's what they put up. And that was a long time ago, and we still fly one to this day. I have one at my house right now, and my siblings, and Mark and Mike and Kay, and our friends, we fly peace signs because of the way that was back then, because there's nothing wrong with peace. And I had a lot of fun. How many of y'all know Carter Castile here in town? Well, she's my friend, and she's very fun. And she's West Texas, and so she delegated when we had an office together. My job was to decorate. And so, of course, I put a peace sign. Then I put out in Christmas lights, peace, love, and joy. And so she looked at that. She goes, what is that hippie shit? And I said, well, I don't know how hippie it is, but what's wrong with a little bit of peace and love? During Christmas, we had so much fun doing all that. And she really isn't mean. But anyway, those are my memories of Christmas, and it's always fun. So this is my first year actually to be at home and not drive about 1,500 miles, which is what I used to do, make this big lap. And so I'm going to celebrate my first one at the house with my friends, and my sister came down, so we'll fight. But we probably won't get a mini bike. So that's all I got to say. Here, Marion's next. Oh, come on. I'm just windy. There we
go. Most of you know that I grew up in the French Quarter and in the area, and our house had a slate roof, and my sisters and I, 3 sisters and I, lived on the 2nd floor. So when Santa Claus came to our house, my sister Min was convinced she could hear the hoops on the slate roof, and she would tell us if he's emptying out, and we had 5 chimneys. We had to make sure that Santa Claus knew which chimney to come down so he would land in the living room. So that's where we put the treats. And Mardi Gras helped us all develop an oversized imagination. And I'm giving you this background because at Christmas time, the Christmas I remember, we were an immigrant family. My father did not like that word. He said, when I got naturalized, my whole body became American. So we never used that word. But most of our family was still in Lebanon. So in keeping with the imagination, my dad had a wonderful book, Photographs Around the World. Well, I'd go in his library, and as a little girl, I would look and I'd say, someday I'm going out of New Orleans. And I did, and my dream came true. I became a recreation specialist with the Army, and I was a civilian, but I know what it's like to be in the Army. So when they say, are you a veteran and are you honorably discharged? I still don't know what to fill out. But I was assigned to a club in Germany near Frankfurt, and I was put in touch with my dad's brother. We only, at that time, you could call your relatives in Lebanon, but it would be it would actually be over the rent for some places in the French Quarter. $5 would get you an apartment in the French Quarter, but if you wanted to telephone and you wanted to call long distance, forget about it. It was $50, $60, $70. We didn't have that kind of money. So my parents always made sure when my grandfather and grandmother were living that they would send pictures of all of us. That was easier and controlled. So when I went to Germany, and we made contact with my dad's youngest brother, who was Adib. And that was when telex was the way that you contacted people. I feel like I'm going back in the dark ages. But ham radio was how we got in touch with him, because on the news the day before I left to go to Lebanon for Christmas and to meet my family, the rest of my family, it just was unbelievable that I was doing it. But the Palestinians bombed an El Al jet in the Beirut airport where I was going to land. So I called my uncle, and I called him ham radio. I went to the ham radio shack, and they got me his telephone number, and they relayed it. I said, well, Uncle, they just bombed a jet. Are you okay? Yes, and we are waiting for you. We have about 50 relatives that are going to meet you at the airport, and we just can't wait. And I said, I can't wait either. So I got on the plane, and it was the most exciting thing. When I got there, my uncle was in the area where they had to check passports. So they let him in, and one of my cousins worked for Middle East Airlines, and he was there too. So I got to hug my uncle, who looked like a small copy of my dad, and then I got to see the family. And it was just wonderful. I said, for me, all these people came out to see me. And I felt like a celebrity, And I had all my best clothes that I had gotten made in Hong Kong. And, I took all the nice looking things because I know that they dressed in Beirut. And the most wonderful surprise was that they celebrated Christmas on King's Day. So until insurrection on the 6th of January, I and my family started celebrating King's Day as Christmas because they had. So all the relatives who had been at the airport came to visit. They came the last day that I was there in the mountains. And the older people from the village came and sang their old-fashioned songs, and it was just a dream come true. So I continued to dream after that. And I went back 3 times, and the last trip was '99. But thank you so much. And